Notice that example number 8 uses an n instead of an x, but we can use any variable. The same technique still works. After I've confirmed that I have something with squared term, in this case an n squared, not an x squared, first, and then a single variable term, and then a constant, I'm ready to pull out my greatest common factor. My GCF for this one is going to be a 3. I can divide out my 3 from my 6, my 9, and my 27, or negative 27. And that's going to give me a result of 2n squared plus 3n minus 9. We want to identify the a, b, and c. I have an a of 2, b of 3, and a c of negative 9. Remember that the top is a times c and the bottom is b. All right, so a times c, 2 times negative 9. That's going to give me a negative 18. And then my b term is 3. So I'm going to be looking for factors of negative 18, things that multiply together to be negative 18 and add to be 3. This time I have a negative top number, so I'm going to be in this orange column. It was a negative 18, and then my bottom number was positive. It was a positive 3. So that means I'm looking for a positive and a negative factor, and my bigger factor needs to be positive. Notice that great big positive sign and the smaller negative sign. I said that my smaller factor needed to be negative and my bigger factor is positive. And remember, I always like to write my small factors on the left. So I'm going to start out with a negative 1 times a positive 18, negative 2, and a positive 9, because negative 2 times 9 will be negative 18. Negative 3 times a positive 6 also gives me negative 18. 4 or negative 4 won't go evenly, neither will negative 5. The next thing I would be able to divide is a negative 6 and a positive 3, but that means I've turned the corner, so I'm really done here. The next thing I want to identify is which set of these factors is going to satisfy my X puzzle. I need them to add to be a positive 3. Negative 1 and 18 is a positive 17. Negative 2 and 9 gives me a positive 7. I'm going the right direction. I'm getting smaller positive numbers. And finally, I see that negative 3 and 6 will give me a positive 3. So my factors are negative 3 and 6, and I can put those into my box. Negative 3, remember to use n because that was our variable this time, and a positive 6n. My other two boxes are taken up by my 2n squared and the negative 9, and I'm ready to start determining the GCF for each row in each column. 2n squared and 6n is going to have a 2n. Negative 3n and a negative 9. Here's where we need to remember that if we have a negative in the box right next to it, we have to bring that negative for our greatest common factor. So my greatest common factor is a negative 3. Then between 2n squared and negative 3n, I have an n as my greatest common factor. And finally, with 6n and negative 9, I have a positive 3 as my factor. Bringing down my GCF to start writing my final factored form, I have 3. And then I'm looking at a 2n and a negative 3. That will be my first piece, 2n minus 3. And then I have an n and a positive 3, and that will be my other factor, n plus 3. And this is the final factored form of my expression. Now I'd like you to pause the video and try number 9 on your own. Once you've confirmed that you're in standard form of ax squared plus bx plus c, go ahead and pull out your greatest common factor, set up an X puzzle, a T-chart, and a box in order to come up with your final factored form of your expression. Come back here when you're done to see how you did. Let's briefly look at problem number 9. You should have identified a GCF of 3 and you would have had x squared plus 5x minus 24 left. So we are looking for, let's see, a is 1 and c is negative 24. Multiplying those together, I get negative 24, and b is 5. I'm looking for factors of negative 24 that are going to add to b5. Once I determine that I have a positive bottom number combined with a negative top number, remember, look at your top number, and if it's negative, figure out what your bottom number is. I need a small negative and a large positive number. Setting up my smaller factor on the left and my larger factor on the right, which is positive, I'm going to find out that I have a negative 3 and an 8 that will add to be positive 5. Then I set up my box and pull out my GCFs. Don't forget that if you have a negative in the box just right here next to where you're writing your GCF, you need a negative on the GCF. So don't forget about that. And my factors will be x minus 3 and x plus 8. Combine that with the 3, that was the greatest common factor, to get my final factored form.